Oh, yeah. This is crazy. Hi, Michael. We have a...
Hello.
How you doing,
Success.
man?
Doing great tonight. Thank you. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you perfectly.
All right, awesome. Well, I'm glad you could come tonight and participate in the meeting.
Thank
And,
you.
you know, I've been a follower of your post on Facebook for a long time now. And I have to tell you that I admire your spirit and your intuition, and that you have the ability to discern information judiciously, especially at a time like this, which I think is extremely important. Don't you?
I appreciate that, and I certainly do. It's an interesting time, and the last year has been a ride, and things happen in real time, and every day, we have to look at it and say, what's going on, and is it good or bad? And if it's good, okay, let's just enjoy it and see what's going on. If it's bad, it's like, all right, what is it? And how do we deal with it? Is it true or is it not true? And it's like a whole set of processes that have to happen at once to understand, is what I'm seeing actually what I'm seeing? And if it is, okay, how do I deal with it? And if it's not, what the hell is it? Because it's odd trying to discern all this weird stuff that's going on at the same time.
It also seems, I agree with you, it also seems weird trying to discern all this weird stuff when you also have your own beliefs and criteria inside, both politically and religiously and economically and, militarily, you name it. Any Lee that you have deep down inside kind of filters your perception of what's coming in, doesn't it now?
I would say for sure it does. And that's one of the things that I like best about one of my favorite parts of like how I live is that I network very seriously. And I call it like networking as a lifestyle. And you get all different personalities and all different people from every other economic or spiritual, religious, color, gender, everything. And everyone's got their own opinion because of the way they live. So I know how I discern stuff because of how I live in my little small world, and I take the information that comes in, but I have to put it through my filter and then put it back out there. But now I know that I'm putting it back out there in a way that others are going to be looking at, and it has to be something that is fair and truthful and current, and also I want it to reflect my spin on it. I don't want to be playing the game of just a moderator. I want to be able to tell my truth and moderate a conversation and a topic. It's a journey that has been incredibly eye-opening, because I'm trying to get people to talk. I want them to voice their opinion. I want it to be respectful, but I want everyone to be able to talk.
And I see that in your post, and I really, that's what caught my eye, and that's what made me really start to admire some of the things you were writing, because you weren't left or right, you weren't exactly middle, and so you could discern the information and get it back out and build rapport without necessarily insulting people or insulting their intelligence. It wasn't a personal thing, but so many posts I see now turn into personal vendettas or ego trips, and you have avoided those traps, and I have to congratulate you for doing that. And I think we all need to do that on our posts. I try hard. I try not to let that that little spark of emotion strike in me, and when it does, I stop and try to think 2 minutes and take a deep breath. It's kind of like when you're parked at a stopping light and you're looking at your text messages on your phone, and some guy in a big truck lays a horn on it behind you, and it startles you, and the first instinct you have is like to get a little, rocked off a little bit at him, right? That instinct come out sometimes? Do you notice that?
It's instant and it's amazing. And people are reacting to their emotions and to what's going on and their spin of it. And then I feel like if I can, I'd like to be able to like put the brakes on for them gently so that they can take a step. And so sometimes you got to do it with a little comedy. Sometimes you got to be like a little bit slapstick. And one of the things that really helps me is that I'm a hobbyist musician, and I always surrounded myself with serious players that were very improvisation oriented. And that has taught me a lot in life about how I do a lot of things. But in this, it's really fun because it's all at warp speed. I mean, like the last 3 days, there's like literally information coming out every 5 seconds. I'm putting it up, trying to make sure it's real, having the conversations, and then people get all how they get. And it's like, all right, well, it's instant. How do I feel about it myself? And then how do they feel about it? And then how do we keep the dialogue going forward without getting it out of control? And it's just like, you have to take 8 different things. I know where I want it to go, and I have to kind of guide it there, which is just let everyone speak their truth and let it be something that helps us all get to an answer, whatever that means. Because I mean, it's just nothing that we're really doing is gonna make a difference, really.
So I believe that's the spirit, our truth, our voice chakra, and our heart chakra work together to get out our truth, but only if the other person lets us and doesn't lay on their horn while we're trying to get our truth out. And then it'll be time for them to express their truth. And then we come to some kind of an understanding. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And that's what we hope for, because no matter what happens, we're all still going to have to live here together and move forward together one way or the other. It's not like you just pick a side and move out.
Yes, I agree 100%. And I think that the lesson, the moral of the story really is for all of us to stop for just a moment when we feel that horn blowing inside and that feeling, and stop and recognize that's just an alarm, a fear reaction. It isn't an attack on us. It is just waking us up and asking us to discern, to evaluate, and think about the situation and think about if things make sense. And I know you wouldn't be surprised to know that I, over the past few years, have had some epiphanies about my spirituality and my improvisational skills as well. And so I grew up in the world of science and medicine and always wanted an answer and a precise one for everything. And over the past few years, I started to realize that the answers don't lie totally without. Some of the information lies without, but the answers always lie back within that little spark of spirit inside us that God gave all of us. And it's an improvisational answer for all of us. And we can get to it together and share the answer. But if we were constantly honking our horns at each other, we're never going to get to that spot. And you're definitely not a horn honker.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Something that came to mind during that is 2 parts. Is one, that it seems like we're divided kind of into 2 different truths, like what's real and what's not. And like people who are believing something totally different, I feel like they're being given information that isn't right at a mass scale. And that's kind of confusing for everybody. So how do we help correct that somehow and go back to that understanding you were mentioning before?
Well, I think the current situation is unprecedented, right? And there's going to be a lot of disinformation, and the people involved in the control of what we're seeing, and we won't get into the details of that yet tonight on this call because there's just not enough time, but they have a disinformation machine of lies and confusion that they've been using on us for a long time. It was built for that. And so we need to recognize inside that any information, even coming from sources that we may consider reliable, might not be true. And so the only thing, even as a scientist, I have to rely on, even though I see scientific articles, I see data, I see my fellow doctors lining up like sheep getting injections in their arms. But the data that I've seen doesn't prove that that vaccine is safe or does anything. And so all I can trust is my intuition and speak my truth and hope that I don't get blasted out of the water for it. And then the people really that are speaking the loudest sometimes may have some ulterior motives, and you have to be aware of that and be kind and gentle, because you're never going to know if they have ulterior motives or not. Be kind and gentle and understanding, and be Socratic. Ask questions, and improvisational, humorous like you are. And, just try to get to the heart of the matter. I mean, without attacking each other, because we've been at the back of the cave for centuries, right? Fighting over scraps of bread while they're serving at the big table outside the cave. And some of us are at the mouth of the cave and we see all this and we're trying to whisper people out while they're still fighting and honking horns at each other in the back of the cave. At least that's what I feel like.
Yeah, and that just leads right into the big words in the Declaration of Independence, the "we the people" part, which is kind of the most important part, that we have to represent for ourselves and for our brothers and sisters and friends and our neighbors and communities. And I have seen the world go from the 70s when I grew up as a kid to now, and it's gotten to be a very small world. You can get on a plane and go anywhere. I'm connected to so many friends around the world, and everyone's feeling the same thing. Everyone's looking at what we're doing right now, like what is going on in America, and like I'm getting messages all the time from people in other countries, and it's like it's a fun thing to talk to them, and it's surreal because it's wacky as could be at this point. Like it's really like a movie. But it goes back to that, we're we the people. We have to stand up and represent. And I, your title is Spiritual Warriors Live, and I've had this book I read a long time ago, and the title is Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And I was a young kid when I read it, but Peaceful Warrior has stuck with me my entire life. Is like, I just got to go out and do life. But when the moments come up where you have to stand up, you have to do it. And there's really no chance. And how do you rally people in a way that makes them want to join you? And to me, it's about, like back to, again, understanding and common goals and all that kind of stuff. And it's like an honor at this point to go up every day and try to do this, because I just feel like it's my duty. And maybe being raised in a house that had some military background and being very patriotic had a little to do with that. But I just feel like it's a mission, and I've been asked somehow, because my gut does not stop telling me do this every day. Like, just please go find the information, please share it, please have dialogue, please try to bring people together. It's a journey.
So the journey to discernment, if you had to summarize it in 3 succinct points, how would you summarize it for yourself?
Look at what's happening in the most real way you can, and then try to judge that information in a way so you can maybe categorize it into a good, bad, or indifferent way, so that you know what to do with it next. And then you have to find an action plan of what to do with it. So for me, am I just going to let that information go, or am I going to say, hey, this is an important point that I really need to talk about? And then if I do, how do I frame it? Is it a question, or is it just, hey, listen, this is hitting me in the gut and I got to just talk about it. I'm going to be a little more aggressive about it right now because that's how I'm feeling, but it's truthful. Just, I want it to come out like it's always a process, and it falls into several categories, and it would be fun to kind of analyze that a little bit,
And ultimately, before you even go out, do you use your intuition at all to decide, because there's so much information to decide, like, this has to get out now, and I want to say this certain thing about it, and get to build rapport with people. Like, just for instance, building rapport, do you have and I know I'm putting you on the spot here, and I'm just trying to understand you a little better, but do you have a system where you're building rapport in a short post, 3 short things that allow you to get out the information, express an opinion, but also invite other opinions in a non-horn honking, threatening way that gets us all to that little spark of humanity inside us and of understanding that brings us all and raises our vibrational consciousness to a higher level? I mean, to me, ultimately, I think that's the goal, is raising the conversation to a positive vibration, even if we're on different sides of the argument, instead of going negative, because then when we go negative, walls close down, doors shut, minds close, and the enemy wins. The only way we win is to understand each other now. No matter what's going on the outside in terms of kinetics or arms or military, we only win if we truly get to some understanding together as patriots here and move together forward in this spiritual universe as spiritual beings in these physical bodies that sometimes honk horns at us. Doesn't that make sense somehow?
It does. And what the most important, I guess, way to start for my answer to that was, I was, let's just say from 10 years ago until February 28th of 2020, I was Michael, the local artist guy who happened to fly around for a while. I meet some cool people all over the country and had an interesting perspective on life. And I like to post about art and music and creative things and good food and making people feel good. And then all of a sudden, we were shut down for a while from COVID and things started to change. And I just kept saying, man, some things don't feel right here. Let me just ask the question and see what my friends want to say about it. And it was a little tricky in the beginning because I saw that people were very temperamental, and sometimes I would just bring up a question in the most gentle way and I would get slammed, instantly being called awful things, and I'll leave it at that. But it was very troublesome. So I said, how do I do this now and keep my voice without insulting people and everything? So I just basically would let the topics come to me, and I do them pretty quick, where within minutes I have a post and try to dialogue. And it would just flow. So I wanted to ask in a way that was nice. This is the topic. I don't understand this, or what's going on, or do you think this feels a little off? And the more I started getting pushback, then I said, how do I now? I have to show my emotion. So it was tricky. So at this point, I kind of just, everyone knows my emotion because we've been talking long enough, but I still want to be fair. So that's, I guess, the main point here is that I would have to say at least half of my friends are from the other side of the fence on this kind of, and it's not Democrat and Republican anymore either. I mean, to me, it's, are you seeing it for good and evil? Are you seeing it for fair and not fair? Is it against the law or for the law? And people are confusing me because there's people who I know who are very, very smart, very professional people who are seeing things and getting nasty with me and saying I'm a liar and I'm all this. So I have to keep putting that in to the bucket of weighing how I propose things, because it's very personal, and for everybody. But then if you can't let go of your ego for a second and just have a conversation, then you're gonna have fights, and I don't want to have fights. And I don't like blocking people either because I don't want to be a censor. But when people get a little too crazy and they just keep bringing negativity, I have to push the button and say, I'm sorry, you just don't belong anymore. It's not working.
I agree with you. And I have resisted the urge to block people and try to battle things out as a warrior with words, with many people, in a way that paints a picture for other people that read the posts that show that I'm exercising understanding and opening up without judging. But some people are so emotionally triggered and angry inside. And I think that comes from deep down inside and doesn't come from today, what's going on today, but maybe comes from a long time ago, and they haven't worked on that. And they're acting out on the way maybe they were treated by their parents or somebody else in the past on you, because they feel like their voice, their chakra, their throat chakra hasn't opened up yet. It hasn't been heard by somebody. And so I feel like building rapport for me involves kind of opening up my ear chakra too first. And you do that well, because it's like an open-ended kind of thing when you do a post. And so it invites conversation, but it also invites some trolls sometimes. And it's tough for me to discern who's a troll and who's somebody who sincerely believes what they believe. And you never want to insult somebody's beliefs. I think that's a wrong thing to start off with you start off on the wrong foot right away if you insult somebody's beliefs right away. But there's a way to get at them gently and come to some understanding. And I think that you're you're doing that. One thing I wanted to ask you about is the thing you mentioned first about things not feeling right. That's important, I think, in this whole intuition and discernment thing, because as a scientist, I'm an inventor, I'm a surgeon, I'm a doctor, and I've been taught to trust the scientific method. But it's failed me many times, especially as a physician and a surgeon. I've known that I've had to actually use my intuition and ingenuity through God improvisationally in the moment many times to get myself out of tricky situations. I've had to trust that little voice inside. And I think that people tend to forget that because they think they're not smart enough, or they're not good enough, or they're not educated enough. And I think if people would rely on that voice a little more and test it before they would honk their horns in fear or anger, that we can get to this solution in this high vibrational state on the planet behind me a lot quicker. Would you agree with that?
I totally do. And things not feeling right is the start of it. And you're talking about your profession and what your background is. And I have my degree in architecture, and I've been around art and building for a long time. And it's several simple principles, like, you have to have a good foundation that's on some kind of solid footing, and then things get built from there up. And then once you have everything built, then you can start talking about how it looks and how it feels and all that stuff. But if it's not on a good foundation and it's not built solidly, there's nothing there. Or you could say it's wrong. It might not feel right. It might be loose. It might, there's a million things I get into detail about that as how it relates. But if we're in the moment and there's things coming out by the day and doesn't feel right, I just say, again, what is it that's making me not feel that? And I have to be as honest as I can be with myself. Like, what's bothering me about it? And if it doesn't fit into, like, is it on a solid foundation? Is it not structurally sound for some reason, this thing, whatever it is, then I have to start really asking questions more. Like, what's going on? Why? How do I deal with it? Who's saying it? And what's their reputation like? And I just go through a series of things. And I like to ask because about the processes and stuff like that, because I think that's something that I'll dive into a little more thoughtfully to talk about another time, because there's multiple ways to handle it. And if you break it down in pieces and assign a process, you can improvise how that process is applied to the thing, but you still have to have a process.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. You have to have some sort of process to start with. But to me, ultimately, after I go through my process and build and I built my foundation over the last year of myself, because I feel like I might have been guided a lot by emotional decisions that weren't necessarily conscious in the past. But over the past year, I've worked on subconscious emotional things without even knowing what they are, using some different techniques and tools that a really brilliant person taught me, because I was learning hypnotism for my patients' sake, to put them to sleep because they were afraid of needles. Some of them had these really unreasonable fears of tiny little needles that put them up on the ceiling. And so I went to learn about hypnotism, but I learned more about myself in that journey, and about how we all hold deep-seated subconscious beliefs that may not be reasonable and go back to our childhood and are held down there in boxes, and sometimes get triggered in situations of emergency or fear like this. And we tend to cling to them unreasonably, and they trigger that feeling, that bad feeling that you mentioned. When you feel it bad, you want to explain it, right? But sometimes you can't always get to the explanation because there's something in the way. And once I got rid of those, what I found was underneath all that was my spirit and, my connection to up here, to this infinite intelligence up in this space, this collective consciousness of the world, to other people, to understanding them, to being able to discern an answer to something, sometimes without thinking. It just gets downloaded from up here to here, almost like this computer downloads information or PDF from here to the desktop, I feel like I get downloads. And we talked about this before, kind of, we alluded to it, at least in texts. Do you get downloads like that ever, that give you the right answer or the intuition or the equipment to do your improvisations?
Yeah, sometimes it comes from a place that I have no idea where it comes from, but I'm open to hearing it, and I just go with it then. So, you hear it comes from one way or the other, but it's there and you can't ignore it. So you might as well try to use it. And the thing that's screaming out at me the past week is this whole thing is going to go one way or it's going to go another way. And there's no in between. And for people like you and I think that we feel like one way is good for everybody, and then the other way is good for only a small amount of people. So regardless of how anybody feels about all that, at the other side of the fence in a few weeks or a month or whenever it is, a lot of people are going to need some emotional help on how to handle this. And I feel like what I've learned with all the improvisation and the understanding of things and trying to use my intuition to get there, is it is what it is in the end of the day. So I'm going to be okay with it. And I know that I'm going to stand up and still be the same person and try to lead myself and my family, and then join my friends and neighbors and things and that we do. But in this time, I feel like a little bit ahead of the game in the sense that I'm going to be okay with it no matter what it is. And I don't want to handle trying to say, what am I going to do if things don't go the way I want them to? It's just a matter of, it's going to be what it's going to be. So I feel that people I'm aligned with right now, we should start thinking about, we'll be okay. But there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be confused or pissed off or a lot of other things. And how do we help guide them back into it's all good. We'll be okay. We may have to adjust our lives in a dramatic way, or maybe it'll be in the most glorious way. But either way, we're all still going to wake up tomorrow, another day, and have to go do our thing. We're going to have to make our money and try to enjoy ourselves and everything. So I'd like to be a leader in helping people get to a state of enjoying themselves and being real about what's going on after. Whatever after is.
So let me ask you one more question, or maybe another couple, but when you tell me how you feel it's going to be all right no matter what, is there a place in your body where you feel that, where you connect with that feeling?
My whole body. It's, from my heart for sure, because I've had some journeys, as many people have in their life, some by my fault, some just random that I couldn't avoid. And, you feel like there's a cliff, and it's like, oh my God, when that date comes and this happens, I'm going to fall. But when that date comes and you've been through it more than 10 times, you realize there's always another day after that. So I go into my simplest mantra, I guess I give myself, is that, okay, I got to feel what it is. And if it's good or bad, what can I do about it right now? And if I can't do anything about it right now, then when can I? And between now and that date, whatever that is, I'm just going to enjoy myself. And I'm going to try to be a good human. And I'm going to try to give good energy where I go and try to have fun, be productive, be helpful. So if I do those things, it's going to be okay. And if things really don't go how I want, well, I have to then sort it out and say, okay, what's good and what's bad about it? Where do I want to put myself in the situation? And I'm just going to go do it. And then I'm going to enjoy myself. And that's it.
So you trust in that feeling in your heart, which I call everybody's little spark of humanity, their spirit. And so that makes you a spiritual warrior and a leader, because you've been through it, and we're all going to come out on the other side, because our spirits are eternal. Our life here on the physical earth is, to me, it's finite. It could be an enjoyable one, and it's worth living, and it's worth living and being good to each other. But ultimately, we're going to follow our spirits into the universe. And if we don't do a good job of being kind, conscientious, leading, and circumspect with our fellow human beings, then our journey out there is never going to be as long and far as it could be. And we might end up just having to come back down here and live it over and live all the lessons again. But that's just my opinion. It may be right or wrong. What do you think?
I think that if we wake up every day and do the very best we can, and then judge ourselves for that day and just try to do a better day tomorrow, things will always be great. and it'll be all right. And, you know, I know just one other thought that comes in when just shooting the shit back and forth like this is, you know, this simple word is community. And nowadays, because of this computer thing that's in front of us, that hopefully we can stay connected if they don't turn us off.
I know, we might be running low on time because I don't have the premium plan, so we got to hurry it up.
The community is all around us. So it starts in your home, and then it's to the people you deal with all the time in your day. But then we're connected globally to people. And I think that if we just try to do it in a way that is a positive, spirited way, and just try to connect people to each other, and then try to be that, maybe that piece of the puzzle that people are missing. Like, hey, great to know you, great to meet you. What's going on in life? All right. Well, one question I always heard from people that makes me ask it all the time is, hey, what do you need next to make your life better? You know, and if we could help people do that, then we'll be in a good position.
I'm writing down some of the things you're saying because I don't want to forget them, although I'm recording this. So it's going to go up. I'm just going to post it on our Facebook page, and then I'll probably post it on YouTube and some of the other platforms if you don't mind. Would you be okay with that?
I would love it. I'm enjoying talking to you, and we'll do this anytime.
Yeah, I think these topics were really good topics for us to go over here tonight, especially in light of everything that's going on. And there's a high emotion. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of uncertainty. And ultimately, we can never know all the answers to what's going on out there in the universe. There's only one person that knows all those answers. And so we have to go about within our universe and be kind and create a better world for everybody else. And that's what being a spirit warrior is all about. And that's what you're all about, I can tell. And that's why I salute you for being.
Oh, and I salute you, my friend. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. So as much as I'd like to continue this talk, I want to save it for another time, and maybe we can pick up on this in the next couple of days if we still have power on and stuff. And I know there are a lot of other platforms like Scott McKay, who is PatriotStreetFighter.com, X22 Report. Also, let me think. Can you think of some other ones where people might want to get some up-to-the-date intelligence information that we didn't discuss here? Because I think the important thing really for us is not, just like you said it, not worrying about what's going on every minute, every second, every day, but having that feeling in our hearts that no matter what happens, we're all going to make it all right here on earth together, and then ascend spiritually together. And I think that's the only way we defeat the negative vibrations on earth. And I have intuition and information about some very ugly things that are going to come out for people to see in the next couple of weeks. And many people are not going to believe it. But when they see it enough and they see pictures, they're going to be worth 1,000 words because they're going to feel it in here, and then they're going to believe it.
Yeah, you know, I'm in Facebook jail for 3 days because of something I posted that was an ugly truth. And I posted it in October, and everybody was ignoring what it was. Oh, that's all, there's nothing, don't worry. And I saw the topip come up again. I said, all right, let me put this stuff up. And I put it, and then when I woke up in the morning, all of a sudden I got the tag that I can't post for 3 days. And it really, you know, it was tricky because it's an ugly, ugly truth of what's going on. And it's coming out. There's nothing they could do to stop it coming out, but they could try to make us stop. Well, we'll find another way to get it out there. But, you know, it's going to be hurtful for people to understand that this is real and that this is what we've been living with for a while. And I was a Republican growing up until after the Bush era. And right after that, I said, something's wrong here. And I went independent, and I just couldn't side with anybody. And you pick the lesser of two evils. And then, you know, we get to where we are now, and I feel stronger about that. And then what happened in the last few months, I'm even more strong about it, that these people got to go, and we have to start fresh. And
so we're going to ultimately realize this is all an illusion, a movie for us, and there is no Republican or Democrat, only in our minds, not in the minds of people who rule us and control us. We're we're being ruled by an evil crown. And I say that not as a religious warrior, because I don't consider myself affiliated with any religion, although I grew up Catholic. I consider myself a spiritual warrior because I believe that Jesus was my brother and that he came down here to teach, as you teach, Michael DiGiacinto, to be kind and understanding and to stop before you lash out when that horn beeps and think for a minute, if it were me on the other side, how would I want to be treated and how would I want to be listened to? If it's your little child inside that's hurting, that hasn't been heard, whose voice hasn't been heard, it's your job first to listen, and then you can express your truth. But your ego doesn't have to always need to be fed to express your truth first or force it on anybody else, because what's gotten us into this situation and allowed these evil, greedy, and I won't say the word on here because I'm afraid that we will get, pulled off of one of the platforms we put this on, but they're evil, greedy, bad people with these things on their head. And they are truly, at least I believe, these are my beliefs, and I'm not attributing them to you necessarily, Michael, but these people have controlled us and kept us in a jail and in a prison of our own making, of our own minds in this physical world. And they've kept our ego covering up that spirit that's going to tell us that we're all the same. We all have that spark of divinity inside of us. We all have that spark of God who created this whole universe and then placed us here with a piece of him in it for us to create and improvise in this world in a way that makes it better and helps each other, not takes advantage of, uses, exploits, hides the truth from, abuses, sells, damages and destroys human beings, because that's all negative. Even if you turn a blind eye and pretend like that's not going on, you still participate. You are still complicit in that if you turn a blind eye now. So everybody needs to wake up now and look at the information that's going to come out in the next 2 weeks and discern how it makes them feel in here and whether it's true or not. And it's bad information. It makes me want to sob and cry here. And when you see it, you're just going to see videos of a few dozen people, maybe. You're going to hear stories about more. You're going to tend not to want to believe it because you didn't see it with your own eyes. Your conscious brain, what we call your lying brain, is going to tell you, that could happen, but I've never seen that happen around me, so maybe it hasn't happened. But you have to let your heart discern how that makes you feel and the truth in it, because when we look back on history, we're going to see that these people have killed, used, abused, and sold millions, maybe billions of people on this planet for their own gain. And we finally have the opportunity to stifle them now. But if we squabble for pieces of bread in the back of the cage amongst ourselves and fight over what we look like or who we love or what ideas we express or what kind of pictures we paint or what we create, instead of embracing it and seeing the difference as beautiful and uplifting, then we're doomed. This planet, it will burn up in hell in the next year if we squabble in the back of the cave amongst ourselves. So we need to take the step forward. And I'm not trying to command anybody. I'm just talking from experience.
Well, it all sounds pretty reasonable.
Pardon?
It all sounds pretty reasonable, what you're suggesting.
I think it's reasonable, but the talk and the practice are two different things. And so I'm here to help anybody that wants to learn how to uncover that spirit with exercises that I learned that are easy, and you don't even have to know what the bad stuff is inside, but it dissolves it away. And so, so we have a website too that Michael and I are participating in together as members. It's called Free and Fair USA, and this is where all our Spirit Warrior live programs will be uploaded to, but there'll also be information on the latest intel and commentary from people like you and me that debate it and discern it. And I think that's the most important thing. And then we allow people to use their intuition and express their opinions there. And then my plan is to upload videos to show some of these simple techniques on how people can uncover that spirit, get rid of those emotions from their childhood that may be flaring up, or get rid of that horn honking if they don't know how to get rid of it, and cure that so they can get in touch with the now and the here and the today, because it's even more important to be living in the moment right now and be aware of our surroundings, because things are changing uber fast. Don't you agree?
I agree 100%, 100%. And one thing that comes to mind, and I think is just an easy little story that just, I think will bring it home, is, ask questions of yourself, of your surroundings, of what's going on, and just be honest, and don't be afraid to ask. Use your voice. My daughter listens to different, kids TV stations and whatnots, and there's in Spanish, usa tu voz, use your voice. They're telling the kids, speak out. Don't be afraid to say what's going on. And that's how I got going on this journey, but it goes all the way back to when I was a little kid in Catholic school, and they're trying to tell me everything without, I'm not supposed to ask questions. And remember the first world history class, I was sitting there talking about China and Asia and the religions that they believe, and then the far Middle East, and then the other people here, but they're telling us the other people were wrong in their beliefs, and I'm like, wait, I have a question. I know there's a lot of people, I can't count that high, but there's a lot of people on this earth, and a lot of them don't believe what we believe. Are you saying actually that they're wrong? And she's like, yes, but don't ask any more questions. And the thing that always hits me is when someone tells me don't ask a question, or just, that's when I start asking more questions, and I can't stop. And I think that's been one of the keys to me being honest with myself, is just, you can't tell me to not ask, and you can't try to silence my voice. I'm going to ask, and I'm going to speak up. And if you try to silence me, I'm going to speak louder, until right now, we're pretty much dancing on top of the roof saying, you're going to hear our voice, and I'm going to get a little louder, and I'm just going to try to still be polite and respectable, but we have to go down that road.
And what kind of weapons do you think that government, and maybe covertly through political interest groups, what kind of weapons do they use against us to silence our voice?
Well, mind control in a very slow and steady way is one way. They just keep repeating something until a certain percentage believe it, and that's pretty simple and amazing that it actually works. But it's because people don't ask questions.
I think, I agree with mind control, and I think people need to ask more questions. And I also think there's a concerted effort in some ways to virtue signal and shame people for their beliefs, and then attach those virtue signals and shame in some way to people's nationality or their gender or their political affiliation or even their skin color, without using their intuition and first trying to understand the person before they honk their horn. Would you agree with that?
100%. And that's, again, I think why I actually took this mission seriously, because people were questioning me in my integrity, in the way I live, in the way I judge people. And that, because I asked the question, I'm a racist. Wait, they're burning cities. I'm just asking, maybe they shouldn't be burning cities. Now I hate black people because they're burning city. The black people weren't even burning the cities that I was talking about. It was some other people. And I would just go back at the people who were doing that to me and saying, hey, let's just stop a second. You're saying something that's a little bit crazy. Let's just discuss why. Anybody you can talk to who knows me. Of course, I'm not in any way that way. Try to be the most open to everyone I can. But that's like a direct attack on your soul when someone says that to you, especially when you're not. It's like, please don't do that. So many people started messaging me after a little while saying, Michael, thank you so much for speaking up, because now I'm speaking up. You took it in the face and you talked to those people with respect and told them how it is. And now I feel more comfortable doing it because you did it. And the bullying is the worst. I mean, it comes in so many forms, and we're taught in school now, don't bully, it's wrong, you can get suspended. But yet half the society tries to have an argument by bullying. If they don't like what you say, they bully you and they shame you and they call you names and they do this stuff. And it's as wrong as it can be. And it's people I love do it, people I kind of know, people I didn't know for 20 years, and they come on out of nowhere. Some of them don't even ever comment, and until one day, all of a sudden, it's explosive. And I try to be reasonable, but sometimes it's like a little too much to take. It's amazing.
I agree with you 100%. It's too much to take, and I took it for 50 years from people, and I'm not taking it anymore. And I've learned after I got rid of those little things inside me that my voice matters. Okay, as long as it's not infringing on the free will of others. And I think what happens is people, for political motives, have a playbook they go through that tells them that if you rock people back and shame them and bully them, that you can silence them. And I've decided that when I get that feeling that I'm being shamed, bullied, and silenced unjustly, I'm not going to cow anymore. I'm going to stand up to those people, but I'm going to stand up in a polite way and ask them, why would you want to say that to me? Or maybe teach them something about something they maybe didn't know about me. And so I in particular had somebody who I hadn't spoken to in high school for years, and I had posted something contrary to his political opinions and another friend of his. And they, first of all, I had to block the one friend because she was just off her rocker, posting insane things. And I won't say insane, but just really, abusing not me, but people who were supporting my opinion. And I felt that was wrong because people were just trying to be nice and speak their truth. And she was trying to bash them with lies and nonsense. And I had to block her. But then she sent a minion to question the spelling of something in my profile and to shame me, saying you actually cut people open in your profile. And so, and I've never told this to my parents, my wife, my family, even I'm going to cry, even my daughter. But, for years in school, I thought I wasn't really that smart. I mean, I got B's and C's and stuff like that. I went to a public high school where you just showing up got you a C, and keeping your mouth shut. So, but I never felt like I was really smart. But I made it on to college, and I had a lot of trouble my first year. And a chemistry teacher noticed that I could write chemical formulas, and like I was like a savant at them, and understand them. And then she noticed that I couldn't read very well, and I didn't even know that I had a problem with understanding my words and seeing some of the letters backwards and seeing some of the sentences backwards compared to what you would see maybe, or somebody else. And so she got me some help, and, I opened up like a blossom, and, I aced the rest of college, and, I was able to go back to medical school, and I aced the medical school entrance exams and got into an outstanding orthopedic program and sports medicine. And my life was forever changed with that miracle of that person helping me. And to shame me for that, really, that triggered me deep down inside, because I had never shared that with anybody before. And I think his intention was to make me feel bad for a political reason, because they sided with one side that I didn't agree with and a truth that I didn't agree with. And so they used something about me as a club to bash me with. And so I had to speak my truth out on my page, and I'm glad that I did. And I hope they feel not shamed, I forgive them, but I hope they feel taken aback by treating another human being like that, when I reminded them that in a kind of around the about way that they probably felt as bad about themselves in high school and grade school as I did at times. And so, that feeling that we all get of inadequacy or being not good enough or being not enough, everybody has that. And to try to strike that for political gain in somebody else's heart, or for any gain in somebody else's heart, is not, it's violating people's free will, and it's not being a human being, in my eyes. Agree with it or not?
I agree wholeheartedly, actually.
I can feel that. I didn't even have to ask you, but I'm just, for the sake of the recording, I'm asking you that question. And I think everybody can handle problems that way, especially when there's there's going to be a lot of shaming and virtue signaling and questioning of realities in the next few days and weeks to come. I guarantee it. And I think that our job as not only spirit warriors, but we're the spirit warrior leaders, I think, because we've been through it, Michael, you and I think that we have a duty and an obligation to teach other people who have been through it how to teach without shaming, how to question, how to get to people's beliefs in a way that doesn't violate their beliefs or shame them, and build rapport. And I think just by asking somebody, if you're curious, why would you think that way? Or I'm curious, why would you feel that way? Respectfully, I think we can gain a lot of ground and maybe get outside the orbit of this planet up here. We can maybe get up to here, to the fifth dimension part of the time, and then back down here to the fourth, and then into the third dimension on the planet. Again, and maybe shuttle back and forth right now. But if we raise the vibration of everybody that way, can you imagine what a world it'll be to live in? Because we're not going to have to worry anymore about abundance, according to what I'm being told, because the powers that be, and again, I don't trust men. I don't trust books that men have written. I trust what I feel inside here as a spirit warrior. I trust my intuition. I trust that feeling I get, that of discernment that you get when things just don't seem right. I'm going to stop, look, and listen from now on. And I think that we all should step back as we navigate these really troubled waters. And instead of going forward blindly, like the men from the Light Brigade, I don't know if you know that poem.
No.
I might end it with that poem here, if you don't mind. But do you have any final thoughts for me, Michael?
Well, one quick one, then we'll be able to continue the next time, when I look forward to the next time, is, we're talking about how to keep the conversation going and invite other people of other opinions to join the conversation. And sometimes things will get heated. And 2020 was the year of the meme and the awesome GIF videos. And you can throw in some ones that really make your point hit home, but also you can take apart a very tense situation by throwing something hilarious into the mix.
Yes, you can.
And memes are just outstanding. And if you have, saved them in a little file on your phone, or you're quick to the punch on the little bottom of the screen there, you can make some funny things happen. It brings people back. And I've had people where it looked like it was getting close to the point of boiling, and we got back and we could just always say, hey, we've been friends for a while. Good topic today. High five. I'll see you tomorrow. Next time. Always come back. And a little levity, I think, is a good thing.
And I think using that type of creativity and ingenuity is what God put us on earth to do. That's our purpose, because as above, so below is his rule. And so he's a creator and created all this and beyond, and put us here with a little spark of him within us to create here on earth. And I believe that as we create, we get closer to him. It opens up, without even getting rid of those things, it opens up a little place in our hearts that allows us to connect with him. And I don't know, this has been my experience since a child, but I never recognized it until the last years, when I was building a little model, or if I was working on my bike, or if I was helping my dad, do projects around the house, or we were creating or helping, or we were helping neighbors dig a hole in their yard or something like that. The feeling that I got from doing those things was always one of the best feelings. And I think that's one of the top ways to get in touch with your spirit. And we need to connect with that spirit of him, of the universe, often. And I think people who lay back and absorb information instead of, like you and I, go out there and try to discern and devour it and then debate it with other people, and then come to a conclusion, and then maybe come up with ways to creatively demonstrate your point like that. I think when they don't do that, they do themselves a disservice, because they're going to wallow in hate and anger and negative emotions when they could be connecting with that spirit every day. Maybe just by, sometimes I connect with the spirit by cleaning our kitchen or washing some dishes, by getting my mind totally focused in the moment, hypnotically, in that moment of time, on just one thing, instead of sitting worrying about my problems. When I notice myself worrying, anxious, he doesn't want us to live in anxiety ever, because we're eternal. So we're going someplace from here. Don't worry about death. Don't worry about poverty. Always keep abundance in your mind and your vibrational state up here, and you will attract all those things into your life automatically. Wouldn't you agree?
It's going with the flow, and it works like a charm.
It works like a charm, going with the flow. I absolutely agree. So the last thing I want to bring people to is this poem, and maybe I'll post it on my Facebook page, but it's The Charge of the Light Brigade by Alfred Lord Tennyson. But the gist of the poem, before I post it, I'll just give people the gist of the poem, is that in the heat of the battle, in the middle of the war, this brigade in the Crimean War, in the Battle of Baklava, had a battle called the Charge of the Light Brigade. The Light Brigade were soldiers who didn't have a lot of weapons. They were like infantrymen they had light weapons. And somehow during the charge, the commander issued the wrong order. When he wanted them to retreat, they went forward. And unfortunately, when that happened, there was some confusion over what the actual order was, but they didn't stop to listen, to discern, because of the heat of the battle and all the disinformation and bombs blasting around them and emotional triggering and fear. They didn't trust their spirit inside to stop, wait, and listen for the order, and it cost all of them their lives. The Charge of the Light Brigade, they were mowed down. It was a massacre. And if we don't stop and listen to each other and feel that light, that little spark of humanity, of divinity inside us, and give each other the opportunity to speak our truth before we honk our horns and then come together with some understanding, all the evil stuff that's going to come out over the next 2 weeks about what the power structure and these evil people did to us is going to happen all over again. And it may happen fast. We may just spin out of control, because they got 12 of the people at the top of the pyramid. And I believe those people were in charge, and now they're rounding up all those people at the bottom of the pyramid that worked for them, that facilitated them, or were there robots. And we're not going to get into all that tonight, but I would love to talk to you about that and your opinions on that. But these are opinions, but I feel them inside to be true. And in some cases, I know some of them to be true by evidence. So it's a combination of evidence and intuition. But what I'm saying is, there may be a 13th family out there that we don't know about that could betray us. It could be Mr. Trump. And I believe in Mr. Trump. I believe he has a sincere heart. It could be one of our military generals and we don't even know his name. It could be Q. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I'm going to have to block that out for YouTube, but it could be anybody that betrays us. But deep down in my heart, my intuition tells me there's a 13th family we have to watch out for. Almost like a Judas that could betray us and lead to our destruction here on earth. And so my discernment and my message to end with today is, let's not become the Light Brigade. We're heavy, fat spirit warriors. And we're going to use our intuition and our understanding and our compassion to get together and discern the truth here. And we're not going to allow 12 families, or even if there is a 13th, to get to us. Because when we raise our vibration in our intuition and our spirituality in a way that can discern, detect, and defeat the enemy, we're going to ascend up into this universe up here. And, you know, humanity is going to reach its purpose here on life. We're going to create a world that our Father put us here to accomplish, finally. And that's the last thing that I want to say. Yeah, I'm going to give you the last word.
Well, it's Sunday night. Tomorrow starts the second week of the new year. Every day is a clean slate. Every day we can wake up and start fresh and see what tomorrow brings. We know that the next 2 weeks are going to be intense and potentially chaotic, but staying with the use of our intuition and our soul, spirit, guide, I think we'll be fine. And I think we just need to keep talking. Just us and everybody else, just keep talking publicly and loudly and to our truth. And if there's people who disagree, let's try to at least do it civilly. The one thing I was just really blessed with this year is there's quite a few people from far right to far left and everywhere in between that disagreed violently on my posts sometimes, but they're still there because there was still a level of respect in the conversation that I was able to tolerate for the whole time. And it was kind of like an honor to be able to bring people together and have them. I mean, sometimes I go to sleep and the messages go all night long on it, and people just, the topic was so at home to them that they had to keep going. And sometimes for weeks, like the same post just keeps popping up and people keep talking. So I just keep trying to devise ways to keep them going based on what we're dealing with. And hopefully it ends up in, you know, whatever happens, there's got to be solutions on the ground for everybody. So hopefully we're a part of that solution process.
If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, right, Michael?
For sure.
Ultimately, yeah. And you're definitely part of the solution. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate being guided to get to know you on Facebook, because we've never met before or really talked before a week ago, have we?
No, we've been.
Yeah. But we proved that we can come together and sense a little bit of that spirit in each one of us. And even though our opinions are different on some things, I can tell maybe ultimately we could still be human, discuss and understand each other, and still agree on many things, and maybe disagree on a few things. But who knows? We may get to that bridge someday, but there's no reason to push it. We should just enjoy the moment and what we can agree on. Wouldn't you agree?
No.
No. All right. This has been really great. I feel really good inside. Before we did this, let me tell you, I felt nervous and I felt self-conscious and I felt all kinds of bad things, but now I feel nothing but good inside here, and I'm ready to take it to the man in the next couple of days and work hard on helping our fellow humans here on Earth. And I also want to say, click the subscribe button wherever it is here, because I don't want to forget that. Can you think of anything else? Like the website that we are a part of is at freeandfairusa.org, or you can just send a link to one of us, or send a DM to me or Michael on Facebook, and we can send you a link to that site. Right now, it's not on that URL, but it will be soon. There's a different URL, but it's free, it's fair, it's private, and it will give you up-to-date aggregated information from all the different news sources that we, I won't say we 100% vet them. You can decide, and you could debate on the source on the site, but it won't be censored in any way. I'll allow you to post your truth and speak your truth on that site. Not me, I won't allow. Myself and the other members will allow you to speak your truth and debate it, as long as you're civil, respectful, and respect other people's free will. I promise you, I'll make sure that even if we go down in terms of the other social media sites, that I'll try to keep it on a private server and keep it up for as long as I can. And we have a pretty solid network that I know cannot be, it's secure. It can't be violated by any outside evil forces at this point. It's been tested. And so you can log on and feel free that your information is going to be safe there, at least to the best of our ability. And you can get honest information, honest debate, and you can agree or disagree. But ultimately, what we need to do is come together as human beings, spirits that inhabit a physical body in this physical realm, in order to really reach our highest potential up here in the universe. And that's what I believe. And that's what makes me, I believe, a spirit warrior. And that's why I'm doing all this. And I don't know why. This just all came to me. Some people think I'm crazy, but I think I'm crazy sometimes. I think I'm losing it. But these are the downloads that I get. This is my intuition. And so this is a mission I decided to accept a long time ago, almost a year ago. And I can't explain why I knew that I would get to this point, but this point was in my mind. And we'll get to some other shows where we talk about things like manifesting our realities and raising our vibrations. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about how people strike fear and anger in your heart and use that to use you. I plan a whole list of topics, and I can't really wait to jump on them. So hopefully Michael can come back as a guest in a regular appearance on this. If he'd like, anytime he wants, just ring me up, and I'd love to have you back again to help me out. Because
I have just 4 little phrases that I'd love to just end this with, that I think it's going to kind of bring it all again together, which also will catalyze future conversations. Started out talking about we the people. Your show is called Spiritual Warriors Live. I brought up the peaceful warrior, and it's the we. We're talking about information. We're trying to get to the bottom of where the truth is. And the one thing I feel in my heart more than anything is that we are the media. We are, and that's it. So until some other system forms, we are media, and might be
absolutely
all different versions, but I feel that in my heart, and I just think that that's very important for people to realize.
And I think it's important that people don't trust the voice or the opinion of even me or even you, any one man, any one woman, any one person, any one book, or even multiple people or multiple books, that they don't trust that. And when they feel like people are trying to push them or persuade them, then they should always step back and question. And that's what Free and Fair USA is all about. We don't just post opinions from one person or another. I'm glad for people to start a string and post videos from somebody who they think has maybe a more liberal or conservative opinion on there, but we all can debate it as long as it's civil. And as long as it gets us to this place up here, I'm okay with it. And we don't want to hurt anybody. We don't want to shame anybody. And we don't want to virtue signal anybody. We want to accept everybody and get to our truth. So we all get to hear ultimately and get to fly around to all these little spots up here. So with that being said, before our recording goes out and our Zoom meeting goes out here, because I know we're probably way over time here, I think
did
they've
good.
been generous with us. They must have rescinded the 60-minute rule or 30-minute rule. It looks like the recording's still going. So I will hit you back. Thank you very much. You've
My
been
pleasure.
a scholar, and let's talk again soon about the next show. Okay.
Anytime. My pleasure.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Have a good night. It was great talking to you.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.